Tonight, we are learning new details about the COVID-19 exposure that happened at Keller ISD at a board meeting last Monday. Well, one North Texas parent is now saying it could have been prevented. Our Nicole Nielsen explains.
The meeting was held to discuss the prevention of COVID-19. And now, less than a week later, all attendees are being asked to quarantine after one speaker tested positive for the virus.
Right now, community transmission is high in Tarrant County.
John Sempeles was one of dozens of speakers at KISD's special board meeting. He says it was his only option if he wanted to be heard.
They had this session to hear people's statements and concerns, but they did not let them provide them electronically, which I thought was very wrong. They allowed it at a previous meeting, but they didn't at this one.
According to online agendas, the district required this meeting's public comments to be in person, as opposed to offering an online submission option like in previous meetings. It stated speakers may sign up for public comment at the meeting location prior to the time the meeting is convened.
I can't speak to their thought process or the reason why they did it. I just know what the result was, which was less voices would be heard that really wanted to be heard.
John's a KISD parent who spoke on behalf of his friend, an immune-compromised teacher who couldn't risk showing up.
She was scared. She wanted to have her voice heard, but she could not be there in person. So I went there to speak their voice.
John says they did their best to social distance, but it wasn't enough. Most speakers took off their mask when giving their 2 cents, and not a word was said about it.
There were only a few, I think, that actually wore the mask at the podium. A lot of people came up, and even if they had the mask on, they would take it off. Assuming one of the speakers had it and every person that went to that podium got it, was probably in the numbers of 40 at least.
He says he can't help but wonder if the virus can't be prevented at a school meeting, how it can possibly be prevented in classrooms.
How are we going to do drills? How are we going to do, stop in place? How are we going to, when they're passing the halls, how are we going to keep the buses clean? None of those answers were really being answered sufficiently from what I was hearing from the teachers.
The district says it immediately began contact tracing and letting speakers know of the exposure. Despite all of this, John said if he had to do it again, he would, to make sure that the voices of those teachers are heard. The district is now recommending those in attendance to quarantine until August 18th. In Keller, Nicole Nielsen, CBS 11 News.
Thanks, Nicole. And Keller ISD, by the way, was scheduled to have a special board meeting on Monday, but the school district says it is postponing it so it can now review the new safety guidance from Tarrant County health leaders.